My name is Alexandra Kicenik Devarenne, and I am a freelance olive oil consultant, writer, and educator. My olive oil epiphany happened in 1979 in Rome. I stayed for 6 months with my sister there, and it was at that time that I realized that olive oil was not just a cooking medium, it was an incredible flavor source. So from there, I went on to have an entire first career that had nothing to do with olive oil, but I remained a passionate consumer and ate olive oil, but just kind of as a person who enjoyed it. I moved to Northern California, and it coincided, the timing was good. It coincided with what we call the California olive oil renaissance. And I already had this interest in olive oil, and I had to leave my previous career behind. So I became very interested in this burgeoning industry. I got a job at the University of California Cooperative Extension and worked for 7 years there doing field work, research on all kinds of different olive and olive oil topics, also integrated pest management and ran the Master Gardener program and a whole bunch of other stuff. But that was really where I finally became involved with olive oil. During that period, I started tasting olive oil with a taste panel. So I became an official member of the California Taste Panel, and that led to really a lot of activities afterwards. I discovered that I had a knack for blending. So now, as a freelancer, I offer that as one of my services. Also, being on the taste panel and tasting olive oil led to working as a judge in competitions. That was first domestic, but then eventually internationally. So that's something that I still do and really enjoy. So I left the University Cooperative Extension and as a freelancer, just began working in all aspects of olive oil. Because my first career was in the media, I was immediately interested in communications, writing about olive oil, and helping people. I was in the art department, so working with people on brand development, as well as creating content. Because I got my degree at University of California, Berkeley, we did a lot of writing. So, so that skill came into play as well. And now I work really a lot in the educational space as well. I started doing that many years ago. It's been actually almost 20 years of teaching about olive oil. And I teach for the trade, for the industry, everything from production and processing to evaluation. I do tasting classes, classes for retailers, distributors, that sort of thing. But also I work with consumers. And that is more of what I would call olive oil appreciation, where I just try to break down some of the barriers that exist. People are kind of intimidated by olive oil. And I try to make it more approachable and understandable. So for those classes, I love to do food pairing, for example, to show some of the flavor dynamics that are possible with olive oil, and also just to show how simple it is to integrate olive oil into your diet. Olive oil's sustainability credentials are really impressive. The technical side is quite straightforward. Olives are a perennial crop, which helps to preserve the soil health and promote biodiversity. Olive orchards are carbon sinks. One of the kind of cool things to know is that producing a liter of olive oil captures 10.65 kilograms of atmospheric CO2. So, so the carbon sink aspect is very, very good. Also, olive trees are really very drought tolerant, and they can produce with a fraction of the water that's required by other crops. They are, generally speaking, very low input. So fertilizer, pesticides, and things like that. Olives have much lower needs than most other crops. Also, the production of olive oil, it is minimally processed. So that means less energy is required than would be for a refined oil, a seed oil product, for example. And also, olive oil is never solvent extracted. So there's no use of hexane, which is considered a potential environmental contaminant and also something you don't want residues of hexane in your food. So I would say on that sort of technical level, it's really hard to beat olive oil and olive trees. But in a way, the most compelling argument for olive oil and sustainability is the fact that olive oil makes a planet-friendly, plant-forward diet really easy. You can, vegetables, legumes, all of the foods that people are trying to eat more of out of concern for the environment are delicious with olive oil. So that's an aspect of the product that I think is really crucial in sustainability, because we need to rethink our relationship to animal products, not necessarily cutting them out completely, but certainly reducing our consumption of meat and dairy. And olive oil fits beautifully in the gap that's left when you reduce your animal fat intake. It is that delicious fat that you miss when you get rid of butter or lard or any of those other animal fats that make food taste so good. So that's, in a lot of ways, that's the thing that olive oil brings to the table that I think it's unbeatable. One of the things that chefs and food service can do that is extremely important in olive oil, particularly in a country like the United States, where we have a tremendous number of people who have absolutely no familiarity with the product, is they are in a position to present a brilliant experience with olive oil. And I think that moment, it's something that many people have when they go to visit Italy, for example, where they begin to realize, oh my God, olive oil is something that just transforms my food. I think that there is a huge opportunity for the use of delicious olive oils in a very visible way in restaurants that will help to engage people, to get them excited. I do classes where I do a sort of a simple, it's not really cooking, it's more like food assembly, because there are no stoves involved. And everybody in the class gets little piles of different ingredients and gets to combine them. And there's 3 magnificent olive oils, and they get to do it and taste it, and they've seen what goes into it. So making olive oil visible is something that will really help to promote it. The story, the sustainability story, I think probably just, making delicious plant-forward meals. That's something that people have this notion that there's deprivation involved when you're not eating a lot of meat or a lot of dairy and so on, and that without those things, then food is going to be drab, it won't taste great. And I think in fact, we know that that's not true. So I think that's where the sustainability story of olive oil really fits nicely with the restaurant experience. A key message that I think we should spread is that cooking does not have to be complicated and time-consuming. People are busy and often, haven't had any time to plan, and there's this sense that cooking requires all of that. Olive oil, as far as I'm concerned, olive oil is a magic ingredient for creating simple, healthy, and delicious food. If you look at the big picture, heavily processed, heavily packaged convenience foods are really not convenient for your health. They're not convenient for the planet. And we need to, rethink that. I think it's a reset on how we look at our food choices and how they relate to the planet. We need to get that message out, that if you've got olive oil to work with, that in a very short period of time, simple ingredients can be absolutely delicious and centered on plants and legumes and these more sustainable foods. Really, agriculture as a whole is due for a reset. The era of get big or get out, which some people will remember, that's coming to an end. Our entire food system needs to be reevaluated and rethought. People are interested now in where their food comes from. Who is my farmer? That's an opportunity. When maximizing profit is the only goal, that really limits your options in your farming choices. And I think that as we've put more value on other things, such as the environment, community well-being, human health, all of those aspects, I think we create a lot of other options. We do need to support those other aspects, but if we can shift our thinking, I think that there's a lot that we can do. For olive oil specifically in the future, I think that we need to reimagine the possibilities. We need to think in terms of a lot of different solutions. It's not a one size fits all thing. And I think that our imagination needs to look more at coming up with farming strategies that really suit the environment and the scale. Labor is going to continue to be an issue. It's been getting worse and worse, and I think smart mechanization is really going to be important. We put men on the moon. I can't believe that we cannot come up with more mechanical harvest options for different situations. So a big part of this is, again, it's our rethinking, it's our change in focus to allow olive oil production to thrive in many different places. We're also going to need to adapt. There was a lot of discussion of genetic diversity. We need to preserve diversity and look at olive varieties that will weather the changes better and so forth. And then another aspect I think that's important is that we need to really add value to the byproducts of olive oil production. There was a lot, again, at the conference, we heard a lot about potential uses for olive mill byproducts and orchard byproducts. And I think that that's an important aspect of making this product not just environmentally, but also economically sustainable. That we have to look at the olive the way we look at the pig. We have to use everything but the oink.